Hi guys, welcome back to our Porsche restoration project. In this video we're going to rebuild our pedal cluster, take a close-up look at our master cylinder and how it integrates with the cluster, and then also go through all the various bushings and check the tolerances and make necessary adjustments, make sure our clearances are just right for proper pedal action. You can see some of these parts have been reconditioned already, so when I pulled this out of the car, it's completely frozen. No movement out of any of it. So what I did is I soaked it in a derusting agent for a couple weeks. That helped a little bit, but still it was just frozen solid. And so what I had to do is actually cut some of these parts to get it out of there. It's frozen in there. So as a result of that, we need to replace some of those. And then also we're going to replace our clutch pedal shaft. Got a little bit of pitting going on in here. A little bit too aggressive to try and use that. If I went with that, what would happen is eventually that would start working away at the bushings, start wearing them down, and then we'd be back to repairing them again. And then also our accelerator linkage, not bad, but while we got it apart, take care of that pitting in there and just replace this part too. So I've got some new parts from Porsche, that new accelerator linkage, clutch pedal shaft there. This guy here, this is a new replacement part. We got a new rubber stop that'll go in here for our clutch pedal. And I got new pads, new accelerator. However, here's our part number for that. That's the replacement pedal from Porsche. Part number there. You can see our old one's all cracked. It dried out. Looks pretty ratty. And then I've got some new replacement springs. Although the springs that came off it weren't too bad, it's just better to replace any kind of springs after that many years because they lose their tension if they're sitting around for so long or being under pressure. Lose a little something there. So anyways, let's set this thing up. We'll do one piece at a time, try and explain it as I go, what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and then put it back together and see what it looks like. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is make some adjustments on our brake pedal bushing. So you can see this one here, a little bit loose going in there. That's just a little bit too much play for my likings. So what I want to do is I want to build up inside this area. I want to take some JB Weld and just do a smear coat in there. Then I'm going to put the bushing in there, spin it, and pull the bushing out and let that dry. Once that dries, then I can go in there and sand it. Tune it up a little bit, and what that's going to do, that's going to give me a little bit tighter tolerance, still allow the bushing to work properly. It's not really under any extreme pressures here, but it will just clean that up and take some of that wiggle out of there. We don't really want too much wiggle. It's nice that it slides in, but you really don't want any lateral type rocking in there if you can help it. So let me get some JB Weld mixed up. I'm going to smear that in there and then refit them and see what they look like. Okay, we got our JB Weld mixed up, and just so you can see the strength on this, this is 3,960 psi tensile strength when it's dried, fully cured, so plenty tough enough to build up the walls, the inside of that cylinder. And what we're going to do is just get a little dab in there and run it around. And that should just fill in the pitting. Just a little bit. Okay, that's all we want in there. And then we want to take our bushing and just slide it in there. Kind of spinning it as she goes. And that will really just kind of set the gauge on it. And then spin it as it comes out. So you can see in front of the camera here. Lighting's a little bit difficult to see in there, but pretty much where it needs to be. So it'll sand up nice. It's very workable, this stuff. And what I'll do is I'll take some lacquer thinner, clean off this bushing, do the other side, and then move on to the other part. Okay, let's look at the part that won't fit quite so well. So this is the outside of that same bushing, and that's going to slide over this shaft here. This bushing fits in there real nice. Just the right amount of clearance and wiggle in there to work properly. So that one works real nice, happy with that. And this one also slides in there and fits the other end real nice. So this action is perfect. That's going to work really good. But the outside of the shaft, not quite going to work. You see it's just a little bit too tight there. Can barely get it on. So what I'm going to have to do there is sand this bushing down with some sandpaper. And it should sand fairly easily because it's bronze. You see I've already scored the inside a little bit. Just trying to put it on there. So let me sand that down until I like it. There's going to be two of those, inner and an outer. And then once they slide on here and I like it, then we're good to go. Okay, got those all sanded up. Everything seems to be working real good. So here's what I ran into. Bronze bushing sand up real nice with 150 grit until you get where you want to be with it, and then follow it up with some 600. That seems to work real nice. But the problem with this particular fitment is it looks like you can see these galding marks here. It looks like when they manufactured this piece, they set it up in a vise or something and clamped it down and then welded this end on here. But by doing so, they actually distorted this cylinder a little bit. So what happens is my bushings go on there, and as farther in they go, they just kind of stop. So I've had to sand both to get it to work out. But right now, the outer and the inner, this is pretty much what you want right there. So spinning free. And temperature right now is about 85 degrees, so you want to try and calculate in a little bit of thermal expansion. If you're doing this in really cold weather and your tolerances fit, it may tighten up when it gets warm. So best time to do this is when it's hot. So if anything, it gets cold, everything fits and works even better. You don't want to have too much play in there, but right there, that's about what you want. And then the top here is our clutch cable. And so this part came with a plastic bushing from Porsche on the inside there. I'm just going to go ahead and leave that. Although I have a bronze bushing I could replace it with. Everything seems to fit real nice and it's real smooth, plenty snug to make that work out. I'm going to replace the clutch cable, but the clevis and pin is in such good condition. We'll just leave that and go with it the way it is. Alright, so that's all those bushings taken care of. And then when we put it together, we'll use a little bit of gun oil. Just a drop of gun oil. Even though these are oil impregnated bushings, a little bit of gun oil, just kind of like a primer, get it started, and they'll be self-lubricating throughout their lifetime. And then the housing, got our accelerator piece here. So what I've done on this one, I'm going with a bronze bushing on the inside, and I'm going with a rubberized plastic bushing on the outside. I can get that out of there. And what that's going to do is, it's got a little flex in there, rubberized. That's going to allow, when this is working, it's going to take any kind of shock or vibration out of there, being that it's rubberized, and won't get any kind of rattle. Should be a real smooth pedal action out of that. A nice high performance feel when we're driving. So best of both worlds there, hard and soft bushings combination. Press in there, everything fits really good. That's pretty much going to take care of the bushings. So just wait till our JB weld sets up. We'll sand up our brake pedal. Sand that up in the morning. It fits real nice in there. And then we're off to the races and put it together. Okay, let's take a quick look at our JB weld. It's been about 24 hours since that's set up. A little bit of a ridge in there, but when I slide my bushing in, take a look down in there in the light, that ridge is not coming into the brake pedal shaft area, so no need to do any sanding in there. That's going to work out fine. And same on the other end. A little bit of a ridge there, but not thicker than our bushing surface. So this fits really nice now. I took all that slop out of there. However, really bushings should be static. They shouldn't be slipping. This guy is going to slide down in here, and the motion is going to be on the shaft and not on this cylinder here. That should be stationary, and this should be doing the motion. That would be the same on our accelerator linkage, bushing here, and then also our clutch pedal linkage. So we can have motion here, but really this piece needs to be stationary inside the housing. So what I'm going to do on assembly is I'm going to take some JB Weld and coat the outside of these bushings, not putting too much on there where I can have any squeeze out onto the shaft, but just enough to secure that up and make a perfect fit inside the housing. That way when it dries and goes off, we won't have any rotation at all. Then you have perfect lever action. Even though the motion on these guys is not more than a half a rotation at most, it really is best for your bushings to just be stationary. Okay, let me get the JB Weld mixed up and we'll get those going. Okay, just put a little bit on, going around it. Not putting gobs and gobs on, just enough so that it bites into the other JB Weld, just to make sure you get any excess off of there that can get on the shaft. Alright, nice and clean. That's really all you want. Just slide that one in. And then wipe off the excess. Okay, that guy is not going to go anywhere. Alright, let's do the other one, and then I've got the spring set up here, so what we're going to do is get these bushings put in here. We're going to set this in position and then slide our brake pedal shaft through there and secure it. So this spring is not under any tension to install until we put our brake pedal shaft on. Okay, both those bushings are secure, so I'm just going to put a little dab of that gun oil on this shaft here. And then we're going to slide it in. Okay. Nope. Pull it back out. So this guy has to be loaded, and this put behind. There we go. Right there. So it's resting on that stop. And that's how you get your spring in there. Okay, we've got our outer clutch pedal bushing cemented in there. And we got lubrication on our clutch pedal shaft. This is really how it should work. If that's spinning in there, it's not really going to hurt anything, but this just gets it a little bit more precise and a little more right. Okay, so then we just hook our spring over there like so, and that's it for the clutch pedal shaft. And then our clutch lever arm is going to slide over this guy, and then we're going to put a roll pin through there. However, the roll pin that was supplied with this kit I think is a little bit too big. I could probably make it go with a little lubrication, but I don't really want to force it too hard. So I'm going to order one up from Porsche and see if it isn't more of the right tolerance. Sometimes when you buy this aftermarket stuff, you got to make adjustments. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't work. In case of these bronze bushings, yeah, they're going to work out real nice. You just work through the adjustments they need. I actually think they're better for this purpose than the plastic. Okay, let's finish her up. Okay, got everything hooked up. Let's just take a quick look and see how everything connects and different lubrications I'm using. So our accelerator rod, I'm going to put just a smidge of silicone grease in there when I install it in the car. I'm using general purpose grease on our ball socket. Right down here at the shaft, I'm using siliconized oil, synthetic oil. So that works real good in there. And then also our clutch pedal, that's lubricated with a synthetic oil also. And our brake lever, we can't actually push on that until it's mounted in the car, but that's going to work fine. Its tolerances are perfect in there. And then we've got our master cylinder piston rod or adjustment rod hooked up. So that just gets a washer. Gets a washer down in here, a specific size washer to that shaft. New cotter pin and some general purpose grease there. And we'll adjust that out once we charge the system with hydraulic fluid. And then this is our master cylinder all cleaned up and ready to be put back on. That just presses down in there. Amazing that seals that. Anyways, guys, there it is. It's real simple to do. Just got to pay attention to the tolerances on those bushings. Just work through it. This is how this particular set worked for me. A lot of times when you use these aftermarket parts, this is the kind of thing you run into. But always a way to work it through. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.